AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Our host, Mark Kelly, brings you the leading minds in AI, sharing their story, their success, and their advice. Focusing on fast-tracking you to the top, AI in Action cuts through the hype to help you kickstart your data science career. To listen to the latest AI in Action podcast, head over to www.alldus.com/podcast or subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Podcasts.
Welcome to the AI in Action podcast. I'm your host, Mark Kelly, Chief Customer Officer at Alldus International. Today's guest is Tim Kreienkamp. Tim is the Chief Data Scientist at Adtriba. Adtriba are doing AI-powered marketing decisions. Tim, great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Tim, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into the world of data science.
So after I finished my undergraduate studies in business administration in Hamburg, I first came into contact with data analytics at Xing. And that was back in 2012. So at about that time, the term data scientist was coined, and it was quickly pronounced the sexiest job of the 21st century. So I figured I should probably do that. And then after a master's degree in BI, business intelligence, and another one in data science, I joined the King Barcelona office. So King is the company that does Candy Crush and all those little casual games. And then after that, I was hired by Creditech, and after a short but very insightful time there, Janos, the founder of Adtriba, actually convinced me to join them.
Tim, for people that don't know much about what Adtriba do, could you give us a little bit of an overview about it?
So Adtriba is essentially a marketing intelligence company. So our mission is to help our customers better understand their marketing and its effectiveness. And that's basically kind of the foundation for a better marketing budget allocation. And so to actually enable that, we have three major areas where we are applying AI. So our core product is the attribution modeling engine, where we allocate credit along the customer journey. That basically means that if you have a customer journey that contains of a Google click, a Facebook impression, and another direct type in, for example, we tell you what part of the sale was actually caused by each specific click. And that's what we call multi-touch attribution, or MTA, and this is powered by an LSTM deep neural network. Then we have a TV evaluation module that's based on a time series algorithm, where we essentially evaluate how many users were driven to one of our clients' website or app by a television spot. But I think most importantly, perhaps, we are investing a lot into marketing mix modeling and into our marketing mix modeling capabilities. So that's a set of time series algorithms that take as input all the marketing data like spends, GRPs like reach on television, plus some control variables like pricing, product features, macroeconomic indicators, seasonalities, etc., and kind of quantifies the impact. And the parameters that we estimate there, they can also form the basis for an optimization algorithm on top of that. So we can actually automatically allocate our marketing budgets in an optimal way.
Tim, how did marketing mix modeling start to come back into fashion? Because it's been around a while.
Yeah, it's actually been around for more than half a century, I think. And I think there's definitely a combination of multiple factors that's at work here. First, marketing mix modeling works on an aggregate level, so like on a daily or weekly basis. So you don't necessarily need to have user journey level data for doing that. So in recent times, I mean, I think you've heard about GDPR, IDP, intelligent tracking prevention, all that stuff. Customer journeys have become increasingly complex and less trackable. So you have the privacy concerns, you have the walled gardens like Facebook, Instagram, Google, Twitter. They definitely also play a very important role here. So that means it's not even possible to track every digital touchpoint reliably anymore, which would be the basis for a user journey-based multi-touch attribution model. So from a modeling perspective, online marketing in a way becomes offline too, since we don't have that user journey level data, but only the aggregated data. And secondly, brands realize that multi-touch attribution is inherently biased towards the lower funnel performance marketing, stuff like branded search, retargeting, all those touch points that actually happen very close to the sale. And most marketers, they would actually like to scale up the upper funnel, TV, out of home, the stuff that actually drives demand. They want to scale that up too, so they need a way to reliably measure it first. And MMM really is the only solution here. Another important point, I think, is what I mentioned earlier, is the link to optimization. So MTA, it gives you the attribution, so the contributions essentially. 20% were due to television, 20%, another 20% were due to search, and another 30% were due to Facebook, and so on and so forth. But it doesn't really tell you anything about what would happen if you would spend more money or less money on a specific channel. And marketing mix modeling, it gives us that response function that takes into account channel saturation, diminishing returns to scale. And if you set that properly up, you can actually plug in this function into an optimization engine and get the optimally allocated budget from that.
So when you look at it, depending on who you talk to, 87 to 90% of projects don't make it into production. So that's a lot of data science work that doesn't necessarily see the light of day. Talk to me about some of the challenges of applying AI and I suppose the reality of achieving a fully automated system, because it isn't necessarily straightforward.
Yeah, so it's definitely a struggle. I hope, and I'm pretty sure that our quota at Adtriba is better than 90%. But I definitely can appreciate the challenges and also the frustration that might potentially come with that. So for the media mix modeling product, for most of the products that you have in marketing science, there are a lot of potential parameters that you can tweak or tune, which kind of they rely to the assumptions that you make to the data and that you make to essentially how the world works, how the marketing world works. And these assumptions, they can actually have profound impact on the implications of your model. For example, like how do you pre-process it? How do you distribute the impact of the marketing over multiple time periods? And all that stuff, that's very company specific, and that can also be very industry specific, or even like specific to just certain different points in time. But it has a very big impact on what the model tells you to do. So that actually makes it a lot harder to automate than something, let's say, a little bit more simple, like, for example, like a churn prediction model, for example. And to make things worse, what we see quite often is that models with vastly different implications, they achieve roughly the same validation accuracy. So when you try a model that has a mean absolute percentage error, for example, of 9.5, and then there's another one that has 9.1, but they give you totally different implications. Like one of them say, okay, 500 sales were due to television, and the other one says 100 sales are due to television. So which one are you going to trust? So that's actually quite hard to automate the model selection process there. So what I always think, I think of it in terms of like, we're trying to build a self-driving car, but in order to do that, we obviously have to build a car first, right? So we have those different levels of automation, and we try to climb them kind of step by step. So we first build the car, then we build a car with different automated systems, and then at some point actually we're going to leave we can leave the driver out of the picture, and we're going to achieve the full automation. But that's definitely still a long way to go.
Yeah, I recently held a virtual meetup on autonomous vehicles, and what was interesting was people were talking about the cars, obviously super important, but making sure that the roads are actually set up for autonomous vehicles, because our roads aren't really set up for autonomous vehicles. Our roads are just about there set up for regular cars, but autonomous vehicles, they want a different ecosystem. So we need to set the ecosystem up to allow them to function and do their gig, but they're not going to be able to do that unless the roads are ready. So it's sometimes people can forget about this important point.
Exactly, and I think that's also what our task is as, let's say, data science leaders or data science managers, to actually set up the kind of processes and tools for people to to experiment, to try things out, and to innovate on a much more rapid scale, right? You need to have all those frameworks and the infrastructure in place first.
Tim, tell us what you love about data science within marketing.
So I think for good and for bad, we're trying to solve some really challenging problems. Obviously, that can also be a little bit frustrating. But at the end, like in many other scientific disciplines, it kind of all boils down to causality. Like, what's the causal relationship between a certain input and the desired outcome? So in the marketing case, that's something like sales, revenue, or even app installs or store visits, whatever. But I think similar methods that we are discovering right now, they can be used in a range of different fields like medicine or whatever. So I do hope that the contributions that we are making, they are also useful elsewhere. As for the marketing vertical specifically, I think what's really interesting is the pace of change, again, for good and bad, because you have privacy issues, what I mentioned in the beginning, intelligent tracking prevention, GDPR, changes on the behalf of ad platforms, and they all force us to actually innovate really fast. But at the same time, which is good, the computational power and the modeling capabilities, especially in Bayesian inference and deep learning and in time series modeling, they actually also improve at an accelerating pace. So that enables us to actually innovate quite fast now.
Tim, my final question, what advice would you offer to data scientists getting into the world of marketing?
So I think what I would actually, the point of advice that I would actually offer to any data scientist that's just starting out is stay curious, be curious, stay curious, and maintain your curiosity. Then look at the data always first. Closely, after you're done, also closely look at the results your model gives. And think about what does it actually mean in business terms. So when you have a certain coefficient, for example, in your regression model, what does that mean in terms of what does this channel, for example, television or search, what does it contribute to the desired business outcome, to sales, for example? What would it mean if you would suddenly spend 200 euros more? Like, would it improve the outcome? Would it maybe even worsen the outcome? So what does it mean that your model says, and does it actually make sense in common sense or business terms? And the other thing I think that's quite important in our field is that you have to stay up to date with the latest technologies, not only from the data science side, but also from what the market is doing, because we are operating in an ecosystem. We have the app platforms, we have Google, Facebook, and we kind of play in the game with or against them. So it's actually quite important to know what's going on there. So yeah, I think the most important piece of advice is never stop learning.
You've been listening to the AI in Action podcast. I'm your host, Mark Kelly, Chief Customer Officer at Alldus International. Our guest today has been Tim Kreienkamp, Chief Data Scientist at Adtriba. Tim, thanks for your time today.
Thanks a lot for having me, Mark.
AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Alldus offer an exec search program. Alldus can help you discover how data science and AI can transform your company. With our unrivaled network of C-suite executives and senior AI professionals, we offer retained search services across the US and Europe. For more information, contact mark@alldus.com. Get the Alldus advantage. Become a member of the Alldus community and enjoy some of the following: AI meetups. Once a month, our community gathers to listen to some of the leading experts in the world of data science and AI. Our speakers come from all over the world, including Dublin, Boston, and Frankfurt. We also have our AI mentors. Our experts will provide mentoring to Alldus members. And don't forget our AI in Action podcast. Each week we have guests from all over the world talking us through their education, career, and more. Become an Alldus member and get the Alldus advantage. For more information and to sign up for our newsletter, log on to www.alldus.com. That's www.alldus.com. Alldus International, empowering through AI.